The Lost Secret of the Water. Hey friends, welcome back to Still Growing Seniors. Before we begin, take a slow breath and picture a farm. Not endless rows of corn, not chemical sprayers, not machines humming from dawn to dusk. Picture something quieter, a place where fish fertilize crops, where ducks control pests, where water itself becomes soil. Now, here's what most people never learned. This system fed empires through drought. It survived famine. It required no chemical fertilizer. And then, it vanished from modern agriculture. Not because it failed, but because it couldn't be owned. Today, we're bringing it back. It's a 2,400-year-old system so efficient that one emperor once banned it. And centuries later, industrial agriculture quietly pushed it aside. Today, we uncover that system. We'll meet Fan Li, an ancient thinker who saw water as living soil. We'll explore how a royal ban during the Tang Dynasty led to one of farming's greatest breakthroughs. And we'll see how the Dong people perfected a harmony of rice, fish, and ducks that modern science is only beginning to understand. Most importantly, we'll talk about what it means for you, because these principles can turn a pond, a garden bed, even a bucket of water into a living source of fertility. Let's go back to misty valleys and ponds dug by hand. It's 475 BC. Kingdoms are fighting, but quiet farmers are shaping the future of food. In that world lived Fan Li, statesman, strategist, and student of nature. He wrote the classic of fish culture, the earliest known aquaculture manual in history. Most people saw a pond and thought, just water. Fan Li saw a living engine. He taught farmers to dig ponds not just to hold water, but to grow life. He studied common carp, tough, fast-growing fish that needed no purchased feed. They thrived on the natural richness already in the water. His boldest idea was simple. Water is soil. With sunlight and biology, a pond could rival a field. Farmers began asking a powerful question. Why separate rice and fish when both love water? Rice shaded and cooled the pond. Fish produced nutrient-rich waste that fed the rice roots directly. It was a precise, self-renewing partnership. Every drop of water turned into food. But even harmony can be interrupted. During the Tang Dynasty, around 618 AD, prosperity flourished, until an unexpected decree disrupted fish farming. The emperor's family name was Li. The word for common carp sounded the same. Because the emperor was considered divine, catching or eating carp became offensive, nearly treason. Overnight, farmers panicked. Carp had been their backbone. A royal name suddenly became more important than food, but they adapted. They turned to other species: grass carp, silver carp, bighead carp, black carp. And when they raised them together, something remarkable happened. Each species occupied a different layer of the pond. Grass carp fed at the surface. Silver carp filtered midwater algae. Bighead carp consumed zooplankton. Black carp fed near the bottom on snails. They didn't compete. They cooperated. What began as a ban became an ecological breakthrough. Polyculture. Multiple species working together, producing more than any single species alone. The world's first self-feeding pond system was born, not from abundance, but from restriction. Sometimes limits unlock deeper wisdom. But the system wasn't complete yet. Rice and fish worked beautifully together until one more partner joined: the duck. In the mountains of Gongjiang County, the Dong people refined what's now recognized globally as the rice-fish-duck system. To them, it wasn't revolutionary. It was common sense. As ducks glide across flooded paddies, their webbed feet stir the mud, releasing trapped nutrients for rice roots. Their paddling oxygenates the water. Without machines, the farmer gains a plow, aerator, and soil activator, all in feathers. And ducks do more. They eat insects, swallow weed seeds, and trim diseased lower leaves. Beneath them, fish continue feeding on plankton and debris, their waste cycling nutrients back into the system. Everything feeds something. Nothing is wasted. And the result isn't just food, it's balance. A living, breathing engine that runs on sunlight, biology, and cooperation, not chemicals. And that ancient lesson still waits for us today. In most places, water filled with waste would be called pollution. But in a rice paddy, it becomes liquid fertilizer. It releases nutrients slowly, stays perfectly balanced, and delivers everything straight to the roots. The rice absorbs it like a rich, green smoothie. And the rice doesn't just take, it gives back. Its tall blades stretch upward and form a canopy over the water, shielding it from harsh sun. That shade keeps the temperature steady and protects oxygen levels for the fish below. It also hides them from hungry birds overhead. The ducks, thankfully, usually keep to themselves and leave the fish alone. What forms here is a closed loop more elegant than anything I could design myself. Duck manure feeds plankton. Plankton feeds fish. Fish waste feeds rice. Rice feeds families. And, in time, families harvest fish and ducks for their own nourishment. No plastic fertilizer bags, no chemical sprays, no shortcuts. Everything cycles. Nothing is wasted. It's a living symphony conducted by nature herself. At this point, I can't help but ask the obvious question. If this ancient system works so well, if it's regenerative, efficient, and clearly better than chemical-heavy farming, why don't we see it across America? Why did we move away from something that practically manages itself? The truth is, it wasn't banned by law. It was replaced by a mindset. It was replaced by industrialization. In the 1950s, everything changed. Farms that once worked like ecosystems were reorganized into machines. Corn in one place. Cattle in another. Water drained. Wetlands filled. Ponds were called mosquito pits. Animals were removed. Nutrient cycles were broken. And suddenly, soil that had fed itself for generations needed to be fed instead. The living intelligence of the farm was swapped out for chemical force. And somewhere in that rush toward modernization, we lost something ancient farmers understood deeply. The invisible reservoir. In the rice-fish-duck system, water isn't secondary. It's protection. It's stability. It's a savings account of moisture. When rain disappears, a paddy holds life for days, sometimes weeks, longer than a dry field ever could. But when we drained wetlands and removed ponds from our landscapes, we stripped away that resilience. We made ourselves more vulnerable to drought, more dependent on irrigation systems, more reliant on chemical inputs to compensate. We didn't outlaw wisdom. We simply stopped paying attention to it. Now, I can almost see some of you leaning back in your chairs thinking, all right, but is this real science or just a beautiful old tale? And that's the right question. Any system that claims to produce endless food needs a proof. Admiration isn't enough. So let's look at what modern researchers found when they went back and studied those ancient rice-fish-duck fields. The results aren't just impressive, they're stunning. Start with pest control. In rice paddies where fish and ducks work together, Scientists found that beneficial spider populations, the kind that hunt crop-destroying insects, increased by 54% compared to single-crop fields. With ducks patrolling the surface and fish cleaning up below, pesticide use dropped dramatically. In some cases, it almost disappeared. Turns out, nature balances pests far better than anything in a spray bottle. Then there's methane, a big topic in today's climate conversations. Rice paddies often get blamed for producing methane. But once again, those ancient farmers had unknowingly built a solution. As fish and ducks move through the water, they stir and oxygenate the soil. That oxygen interrupts methanogens, the bacteria responsible for methane production. For thousands of years, farmers were unknowingly reducing greenhouse gases without a single lab coat in sight. Add ducks, and the effect grows even stronger. And then we have the soil itself. Samples taken from rice, fish, duck systems show higher organic matter, more nitrogen, and stronger phosphorus levels than conventional fields. But beyond lab numbers, the soil simply behaves differently. It feels softer, looks darker, seems more alive. Instead of wearing out year after year, it gains strength. Each season improves the next. What does all this tell me? Long before anyone used the phrase regenerative agriculture, before soil science labs and textbooks, ancient farmers were already doing it. They didn't depend on chemicals or heavy machinery. They depended on relationships between water and soil, between fish and plants, between ducks and insects. It wasn't magic. It only looked like magic until science finally caught up. Now, maybe you're smiling and thinking, that's a lovely history lesson. But I live in Ohio, or Florida, or Arizona. I don't have a rice paddy, I've got a backyard. And that's exactly where this story becomes yours. We're not here to copy the ancient system exactly. We're here to borrow its wisdom, to take the principles that made it powerful and weave them into the lives we're living right now. So, what might that look like? First, rethink your backyard pond. A lot of us have one. Decorative, peaceful, maybe a few koi and a fountain. But Fan Lee would ask a different question. Can that pond work for you? Even a small water feature can support native fish like bluegill or catfish. And that water? It's liquid gold. Fish waste creates nitrates, turning your pond into a natural fertilizer tank. Instead of buying Miracle-Gro, scoop up a bucket of pond water and feed your tomatoes. You might be amazed at how fast they respond. That's aquaponics in its simplest, oldest form. Next, let's talk about a tiny plant with huge potential. Duckweed. Most of us were taught to scrape it off the surface like it's some kind of nuisance. But duckweed is incredible. It can double its mass in just 48 hours. Per acre, it produces more protein than soybeans. For generations, farmers fed it to chickens and ducks for free. If you raise poultry and have a pond, or even a small water trough, duckweed can clean the water and feed your flock at the same time. Nature taking care of nature. No extra cost. Now, let's address pests, because every gardener knows that sinking feeling when slugs, beetles, or mosquitoes show up uninvited. But here's the lesson from the rice, fish, duck system. In nature, there really isn't such a thing as a pest. There's only a missing predator. If you've got slugs, maybe what you're missing is ducks. If mosquitoes are multiplying, maybe you need fish. Instead of grabbing a spray bottle, ask the question farmers have asked for centuries. What eats this? Invite birds. Welcome spiders. Create habitats instead of chemical barriers. Diversity is your garden's immune system. And finally, stack your functions. The Dong people combined rice, fish, ducks, and even snails in the same space, turning one field into a living orchestra. In your backyard, that could mean planting lettuce in the shade of corn, letting beans climb sunflowers, or running chickens through your beds in winter so they fertilize and eat overwintering pests. Growing just one thing, monoculture, is fragile. Growing many things together, polyculture, is resilient. And as we get older, resilience matters. We want systems that support themselves, gardens that bounce back, spaces that feed us without draining us. These aren't just gardening techniques. They're reminders that the best gardens grow with nature, not against her. As we wrap up this journey, I want to speak plainly. The world feels uncertain right now. Food prices climb, supply chains wobble. The news rarely brings comfort. But when I think about that 2,400-year-old wisdom, about Fan Li shaping ponds like living soil, about Tang farmers turning a royal ban into innovation, about the Dong people weaving rice, fish, and ducks into a perfect circle, I don't feel anxious. I feel hopeful. They proved something every gardener knows deep down. Abundance doesn't require destruction. When we treat nature like a partner instead of an enemy, she feeds us with a generosity that's hard to measure. When life is allowed to connect, recycle, and renew, it overflows. And we, the seniors of this generation, carry memory. We remember food before it was wrapped in plastic. We remember when water was a blessing, not a commodity. We remember flavor that came from soil, not factories. It's our privilege to rediscover these forgotten truths and gently pass them on. So, this week, walk into your backyard with fresh eyes. Look at your garden. Look at your lawn. Ask yourself, is this a factory? Or is it an ecosystem? Could you add water? Add life? Create even one small loop that gives back instead of takes away? Because the infinite food system isn't really about rice or fish or ducks. It's about perspective. In nature, there is no waste. There are only beginnings feeding other beginnings. Thank you for spending this time with me. And if something stirred in you today, if you learned something new, or you're suddenly seeing pond scum in a different light, go ahead and tap that like button and subscribe so we can keep learning together. Until next time, my friends.